What happens when one of the most recognizable rock bands in American music loses a drummer who helped define its sound for more than 5 decades? For ZZ Top, the answer appears to be simple, but deeply emotional. They keep playing, and they make sure Frank Beard is not forgotten. ZZ Top is preparing to return to Austin, Texas, this weekend for 2 performances at ACL Live at the Moody Theater, and these concerts are expected to carry a very different atmosphere. The band is scheduled to perform Saturday, August 22nd, at 8 p.m. and Sunday, August 23rd, at 7:30 p.m. as part of the Big One tour. The Austin shows will also serve as an opportunity for the band and its fans to honor Beard, who died on August 17th at the age of 77. And honestly, I think this is going to be one of the most emotional ZZ Top performances in years. Frank Beard wasn't simply the guy sitting behind the drum kit. He was one of the 3 musicians who created the classic ZZ Top sound. Beard joined Billy Gibbons and Dusty Hill in the lineup that would become one of the longest-running and most recognizable groups in rock history. For more than 50 years, his drumming provided the groove underneath songs like La Grange, Tush, Sharp Dressed Man, Gimme All Your Lovin' and Legs. His playing was powerful without needing to dominate the music, and that restraint became an important part of ZZ Top's identity. And there is something almost poetic about the fact that the band is returning to Texas to honor him. Texas wasn't just another stop on ZZ Top's touring schedule. It was home. Beard was a true Texan, and Billy Gibbons specifically remembered him as a great friend, collaborator, innovative drummer, and great and true son of Texas. Gibbons also emphasized how important Beard's signature backbeat was to ZZ Top's sound. That tribute from Gibbons is important because this isn't simply the loss of another touring musician. This is the loss of his longtime bandmate and friend. Gibbons and Beard had shared stages, recording studios, and decades of history together. And after Dusty Hill died in 2021, Beard was the last remaining member of the classic rhythm section alongside Gibbons. Beard's death therefore represents another enormous turning point for ZZ Top. But there is another detail that makes this story particularly heartbreaking. ZZ Top had already been dealing with Beard's health problems before his death. He had stepped away from touring, and Michael Monaghan had filled in on drums during some recent performances. Beard ultimately died while receiving hospice care at his ranch in Richmond, Texas, surrounded by family. His exact cause of death has not been publicly disclosed, so it would be irresponsible to speculate about it. The band also made the decision to cancel upcoming performances in Salt Lake City and Colorado Springs following Beard's death. Those cancellations show that, despite ZZ Top's decision to continue, the band understands that this is not business as usual. And that's where Billy Gibbons' perspective becomes especially significant. According to reports, Gibbons has said the band will continue because that is what Beard wanted. In other words, continuing the music isn't being presented as an attempt to replace Frank Beard or pretend that nothing happened. It's about carrying forward something he helped build. Personally, I think that's the right approach. ZZ Top could have simply stopped touring after losing another member of its classic lineup. Nobody would have questioned that decision. But stopping completely would also mean ending a musical legacy that Beard spent more than half a century helping create. Instead, these Austin performances can become a celebration rather than simply a farewell. Imagine the opening of that first show on Saturday night. The lights go down. The crowd knows what has happened. And then the first ZZ Top notes fill an Austin theater in Texas, where Frank Beard's musical journey began. I expect there will be an emotional moment for Beard, whether through words, visuals, music, or a combination of all 3. The exact details of the tribute have not been fully announced, so we shouldn't pretend to know exactly what the band will do on stage. But one thing is already clear. Frank Beard will be at the center of the conversation. And there's another reason these shows matter. ZZ Top's story has now entered an entirely new chapter. Dusty Hill died in 2021. Frank Beard has now died in 2026. Billy Gibbons is the only surviving member of the classic trio, while Elwood Francis continues on bass after previously serving as Hill's longtime guitar technician. That doesn't erase ZZ Top, but it changes what ZZ Top means. For decades, seeing Billy Gibbons, Dusty Hill, and Frank Beard together was part of the experience. Their appearance, chemistry, and musical identity became inseparable from the band's mythology. Now, The challenge for Gibbons is preserving that legacy while allowing the band to evolve. And I think that's much harder than simply finding another drummer. You can replace a musician on stage. You cannot replace 56 years of memories. You cannot replace a history between three people who built something together. And you certainly cannot recreate the exact chemistry of the original trio. That's why I believe these Austin shows should not be judged by whether ZZ Top sounds exactly the same without Frank Beard. They shouldn't. Instead, the question should be, can the band honor what Beard created while continuing the music he loved? If the answer is yes, then the big one. Tour becomes more than just another concert tour. It becomes a moving tribute to a musician whose contribution was sometimes overshadowed by the larger-than-life personalities and visual image of ZZ Top. Frank Beard was famously the ZZ Top member who didn't actually have an enormous beard, but musically, he was absolutely central to the identity of the band. He was the beat behind the beard. And this weekend in Austin, Texas, that legacy is going to be impossible to ignore. So when ZZ Top takes the stage on August 22nd and again on August 23rd, fans won't simply be watching another rock concert. They'll be watching Billy Gibbons and the band step into a future that Frank Beard helped build. And in my opinion, the most fitting tribute isn't simply remembering Frank with sadness. It's hearing that ZZ Top groove one more time and knowing that every beat carries part of the legacy he left behind. Rest in peace, Frank Beard. Your rhythm helped keep ZZ on top for more than 5 decades, and now the music continues in your honor. If you're a ZZ Top fan, let me know in the comments. What is your favorite Frank Beard performance or ZZ Top song? And don't forget to subscribe for more verified entertainment news, music stories, and analysis.